We had an Iranian drone approaching a US carrier-based battle group in the Middle East. And as it approached, it got a little bit too close, and the USS Abraham Lincoln launched one of its F-35C jets that intercepted the drone and shot it down out of the sky before it got into a position where it could be a threat to the Abraham Lincoln or any other vessel in the region. The Iranians were doing two things. One, carrying out surveillance and trying to monitor the US buildup that's going in. And the Abraham Lincoln is part of a new carrier group that is coming into the region to deal with the increased tensions. But the other thing that the Iranian drone will have been trying to do is to probe the US defences just to see what the reaction would be. And I think they got a message that will have been received very clearly in losing that particular asset. The Iranian boats in the region, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps have got their own naval capability, and they've got a number of manned fast attack boats and a number of drone fast attack boats and capabilities. And of course, we've seen the effectiveness of the drone fast attack capabilities in the Black Sea, with the Ukrainians effectively decimating the Russian Black Sea fleet. And the Americans are concerned about that. And their small fast attack aircraft are difficult to track and difficult to deal with. So it is a significant physical threat to the US ships that are moving into the region, but one that they are well versed in dealing with, and quite clearly with this drone incursion. The Americans are on a bit of a hair trigger, so they will react to anything that they see before it gets into an area where it could cause even a potential threat to any of its vessels, I think. Carrying out exercises very close when you've got increased tensions is always difficult to do because the exercises can be misinterpreted. Exercises have been used, as we saw with Vladimir Putin before his full-scale invasion of Ukraine just over 4 years ago, was carrying out major exercises all along the Ukrainian border. And again, when you've got exercising troops or naval capability or air forces, it's very easy to misinterpret the signal of what people are doing and that to turn into something that's shooting. And therefore, this is posturing and gesturing to each other about the size of the big stick that they've got. And it's like the bully in the playground with a baseball bat, slapping his baseball bat against his hand, waiting for someone else to stand up with another baseball bat somewhere else and slap that against their hand. It's gesturing and posturing and displaying military prowess. An exercise turning into a war is where one side or the other side has an intent to do it and to exploit it. And the Iranians could try and do that. The other area is where an accident happens and it will turn into what could be the beginnings of a war, but they tend to de-escalate very quickly indeed, because once people start communicating and saying that was an accident, I'm sorry for shooting your aircraft down, sinking your ship or something else, I'll take whatever reaction that you're going to give to that, but let's not turn this into a full shooting war. This is where diplomacy comes into it as well. So at the same time as we're seeing all this military posturing, there'll be a lot of diplomacy going on in the background to try and stop it escalating and try and make each side know and understand exactly what's happening. He's got huge capabilities in the region anyway. He's got 40 to 50,000 troops, and for troops I include Air Force and naval troops. He's got the headquarters of the 5th Fleet in the area, and he's building that capability up. And this is where the USS Abraham Lincoln with its F-35s and other aircraft and other supporting ships coming into the region are part of this military buildup. And the Americans are in a position to build up not just from sea, but as we saw with the raid on Iran's nuclear capability, to carry up a build-up from other bases around the region and outside the region, flying from continental United States, flying from US air bases in the UK, and flying from and using the UK bases on Cyprus and elsewhere. But America's got significant bases in most countries around the Middle East. Anywhere is within striking distance of Iran, depending on the weapon system you use. We saw the B-2 stealth bombers fly from continental United States to bomb Iran. They come out from Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands that everyone is now aware of, as well, to attack Iran. That's a significant base. And as you get in closer, we've got Qatar, we've got Kuwait, we've got Saudi Arabia, we've got Iraq. There's the British base in Cyprus. There's Qatar is a huge base. There's the bases in the UAE. Every country around the Middle East has got a US base on it, and those can be used. And there are the mechanisms in place for them to be used for US attacks to go in. Some countries will, if it's Iran being attacked, will put restrictions on. Other countries don't, and that's something that's negotiated depending on the outcome that the American wants for each of the operations. And again, a lot of the operations we've seen in and around the region have been joint operations, especially with the UK, because of our presence in Cyprus, both from a physical air base that's there, but also the intelligence support that we can provide the United States across the whole of the Middle East from UK assets that are based there. There's genuine tension in the Middle East, and it's growing. Is there a desire for an all-out war, or is there a move to an all-out war? No. No leader of a country wants to do that. And if we look at what's happened in recent years with wars in the Middle East, Libya hasn't gone particularly well. Syria hasn't gone particularly well, but the ones that have gone even more disastrously were Iraq and Afghanistan. Trump does not want to get embroiled in something where he has to escalate and put boots on the ground and everything else. He'll want to do anything that he can below that level, but he won't want to get into that game. And that game is all-out war. There's a number of different scenarios that could escalate the situation. The Americans get attacked by the Houthi rebels or another rebel group, and ships get damaged or American personnel get killed. That will result in the Americans taking some form of action. If they take some form of action, the Iranians then escalating further. The worst case scenario is the Iranians decide to close the Straits of Hormuz for civilian shipping, and we've got 20+% of global oil and gas coming out of the Straits of Hormuz. The impact that would have economically, not just in the United States, but in every country around the world, would be massive. And that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario, we've got this build up and they manage to solve it diplomatically. The reality of what's going to happen, somewhere in between.